Gonna catch up here and go. All right. We are live. Good
We are
evening.
live.
Good evening, Billy. And thanks for sharing this out, buddy. Good evening, 922 Crappie Barbecue. Matt from On the Be Outdoors. There's Cody jumping in, driving and listening to it. And here's the
What's up,
thing.
Cody?
Cody's down in Louisville this afternoon, and going to have to drive right back in the morning. He should have just got him a room for tonight.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But anybody, everyone, as you can see, we got Mr. Richard Cluck from Fishin Freedom with us. See, we got Creole Catfishing, Mr. Creole.
What's up, Creole?
Mr. Steve
Representing
Rand.
Creole.
Thank you guys for coming in. Well, as we get started here, I know first thing I want to ask you is how about that new PB?
Oh my goodness.
Awesome fish.
That is an awesome fish. I still kind of can't believe it. You know what I mean?
That's a big old fish.
That's a big old fish. I didn't expect to catch it that day. It's one of the things you always go out hunting for an 80 or 90.
Right.
But I kind of didn't expect to really catch it, you know. There he goes. What's up, Danny? But yeah, I was really happy Matt was out there in the boat with us, and then we did it live on the River Rat show too. So I kind of got to share it with a bunch of my guys. That was pretty awesome, having them all kind of cheer me on and everything.
Yes, I mean it's cool enough to catch a fish like that, but to catch it while you're live, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That was awesome. Hey, Chad, what's up, buddy?
Yep.
And then, it was neat because it was a lot of firsts. One, it was the biggest fish I ever caught. Biggest fish I ever actually seen in person, caught.
Right.
It was the first fish I'd ever caught suspended.
Right.
And what's up, Hog Leg? What's going on, buddy? And it was the first fish I'd ever actually marked that fish, set up on it, and caught that fish. I see guys doing that. Guys that are real good with their electronics and stuff, they can, I seen Epic do it. They'll mark a fish and set up just right on it, and they can target and pick out that fish. And the situation was just right, and I got to do that, and that was really cool. I knew when I seen him down there, I even said, "Hey, Matt, come here, look at this, man. It's the biggest mark I ever seen." And we was discussing whether it was a log down there or not, but it wasn't. What's up, Mark?
So did you record your conditions and everything for that day?
I did. I've actually got them in my little journal. Give me one second. Let me look at my little journal here. It's something I was wanting to talk to you about while we was on here tonight. Anyway, I know you said you guys have been keeping up with a lot of the conditions and keeping logs and everything of all your catches.
Yes.
I was going to see if there's any kind of commonalities there,
Right.
Yep. That day, it was 2/12/23 at 2:00. Caught him on shad. The barometer was at 30.16. Water temperature was 42. Wind was 5 miles an hour out of the north. And the river was at 15.1 and rising. I've been trying to get really detailed with all that and keep up with it.
Yes. So this year, we decided that we were going to start keeping up with everything every time we went, temperature, water temperature, wind, which way direction the wind, everything, and the pressure.
Yep.
Honestly, what I have found is if the pressure is above about 30.2, the bite pretty much sucks. You can catch fish, but if it gets up there 30.4, 30.5, you lucky, or we've been lucky to catch anything on those days. But
I'm seeing just about the same thing here in our waters too. Sure am.
I think the best day I've ever had fishing on our home lake, the pressure was 29.7. It was just
really
awesome day. And
so I'm looking back through here. Yeah, day that I caught that 55, and me and Danny, we caught like 18 fish that day. We killed them. It was 30.36, but dropping. And the
Right.
more it dropped during the day, the better the bite got. And this next day here, caught a whole bunch. It was at 30.36 and dropping. It seems like, yeah, you're right in there about 30.2 to 3. But as long as it's dropping, if it's rising, I don't do no good at all.
Right. Same here. And even if it's dropping, if it's taking a big drop all at once, it seems like it kind of affects them in a bad way too. Or if it's just, even if it's low already and then it rises real quick, even if it doesn't get to the real high point, it seems like it affects them.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm definitely no expert in it yet. I've been keeping this log for the last year or so. Right. But that's one of the kind of commonalities I'm seeing. Big extremes in anything I've noticed and kind of affects them. Like a big spike in the water, either going up or down, messes with them. Just, seems like when it drops, it's more of a negative effect. But the pressure is the biggest thing I'm noticing. And I used to think, the moon phase, the moon phase had all this, well, if it's full moon, don't waste your time, this and that. But I'm thinking that don't affect them as much as the pressure. Because a lot of these fish that I've been recording, it was during a full moon. It was when the moon was underfoot. It was when the moon was up high. It didn't really matter. It was waning, waxing, and I ain't noticed too much of a big difference with that.
Right.
Some people may, but that's just with me.
Right. I definitely believe, from what I've noticed, I think the pressure affects them more than any other thing for us. But we're fishing a lake that has little to no current.
Right.
And it's interesting talking to you about it because I wanted to see what was that difference between moving current and fishing water with no current.
Right.
But it seems you talking about it seems like it's pretty similar, pretty close.
Yeah. It seems like it's affecting them in about the same way.
Yes. So you said the river was on a rise that day.
Yeah. I have noticed that too. I think everybody kind of knows when the water drops. What's up, Melissa? When the water's dropping, it's usually not great. I don't say they just get lockjaw and quit biting, but it's hard to bite when the water's dropping real fast.
Right.
And when it's rising real fast too, I've noticed ain't great. Now Jerry Parker might disagree with you because not the last one before last, when I caught that 88, he said, "Man, it's gonna be tough today, boys. The river's spiking, climbing real fast." Well, he messed around and caught a 73 pounder live.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the river from my fishing experience, and I fished the river a lot when I was younger, but it was a smaller river. Barren River is smaller. Even crappie fishing and everything. If I could catch the river on a slow rise, no matter what I was fishing,
yes, sir.
Like the fishing's good.
Yep. Yeah, a good slow rise, or if it's been rising and steady for 2-3 days, it's kind of settled. I've had good luck then, right up until about the time it crests. When it starts falling, I usually just I don't have too high hopes for it. But yeah, a good slow rise over 2-3 days is usually pretty good stuff.
Yes.
So, buddy, we got a rise too. We've went from when I caught that fish, it was 15 foot, and I think it's fixing to crest here in a couple of days at 27. It's been climbing hard and trashy, a lot of trees and debris coming down. It's gonna be pretty rough for the next couple of weeks, I think.
Right. So so me and Cody went out the other evening, and it had rained. It had rained. I think the Friday before this one, a week ago Friday, and we got 2 inches of rain that day. And still, we went out, I think it was Tuesday evening, and there was still just junk all over the lake.
Yeah. So I was off work Monday. I thought, boy, I'll go fishing today. It's rising. It's going to be good. Well, it rose a little too fast. I gassed up the boat, drug it all the way over. I should have went and looked first. I went and got bait first. I got me a whole bucket full of fresh shad. Then I topped the levee and said, "Oh Lord, I could have probably walked to Kentucky on all the trees that was floating out there. It was, and the barges was
Oh,
having a
Lord.
bad time with them. I thought, well, ain't no sense in me getting out there. What's
Hey,
up, Cody?
there's
How's it
Cody.
You can
going?
make us all. You can make us all same size.
We want to see your pretty face.
Oh, you don't want to see this mug.
Star of the
You
show.
make me nervous having me all big like that.
Sorry that I'm late. Just got home.
All good, bud. All good.
And like I said, Stan, too, may be in with us here in a minute. He was trying to get him something to eat just a few minutes ago.
That'd be awesome.
He said they drove all night to get to down to Louisville to the Catfish Conference. And when I talked to him earlier today, they were in helping them stuff. And anyway, he just messaged me just a little bit ago, and he was trying to get him something to eat.
Awesome. I got some packing I got to do. I got to get all my stuff together for tomorrow. So,
But anyway, we were talking about the pressure and everything. Richard, but other than the pressure and stuff, when you head to the water, what are some of the things you like to set up on when you hit the river to find fish?
Well, I tell you, current seams is my go-to thing right now. This year, I've had a great start to this year. Me and Danny, we was going about the first month. We was going out about every weekend, and every time we've set up on a good current seam is where we've been killing them. Whether that be where the current hits an island and deflects off, we've had good luck setting up right on the slack side of a current seam, or there's a big wing dike. It's like a T shape, but it comes out and it's got a big T on the end. When the water's up just high enough where it's rolling over the top of that thing, we set up just below that where that fast current kind of stops and creates a big eddy. Man, we caught a lot of nice ones right there too. It just seems like they're hanging out right in that little more slack water. Still pretty fast current, but it's slack relative to the main current. And that's where we've been really doing good here lately.
So,
and in various depths too. I've caught them in from 75 foot of water to 35 foot of water.
So you fish deep water pretty much always, right?
Yeah, I guess relative, but for us, it's pretty deep. We don't fish much under 30 foot. Most of the fish we catch is, like, say, between 35, 65, some 70. We got a couple holes that's down around 80, 90, but most time I'd say 30 to 50 is a good range.
Yeah. And I think anything, well, at least for me, for the waters I'm used to, anything over 25 foot of water, I'm calling pretty deep water. But we don't have just an immense amount of 70 foot deep water like y'all do, So
right.
And
it's this time of year too, in the summertime, we'll try to fish a little shallower. And for us, shallow would be, in your 20s, and there ain't a whole lot of spots unless you get up into some tributaries, creek mouths and stuff. You're going to find much under about 20 foot, kind of where I'm at. But, in the summertime, we'll get up in the little shallower water, especially at night. Seems like they'll move up in shallows and feed and stuff at night. But for right now, anyway, while the water's down in the 40s, it's pretty deep is where we're finding them.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I can tell you that's different for us for sure, because last winter we caught all of our fish in the deeper parts of our lake that we could fish. And this winter, we've caught more fish in 5 foot of water than anything else.
Yeah, I've seen some videos of y'all. You caught a hog in like 5 foot of water. That last video y'all put out.
Yeah, this just even since the beginning of the year, we've caught a couple fish over 40 pounds out of 5-6 foot of water, and with water temperatures relatively cool. And last year, that's not places we were targeting, but what we were doing last year wasn't working. So you gotta keep hunting, and it's paid off a little at times, and then not so much at others.
I've heard a lot of guys saying that though in the wintertime, everybody's scared to go shallow, but most of the guys I hear saying that though is in some bigger lakes or maybe in some the rivers that's controlled, hydros and stuff that maybe not a lot of current. And I think that shallow water is going to warm up a little bit in the daytime. The sun gets up, maybe that shallow water is going to warm up. I think we got so much current down here, though. I don't know if it would really matter with, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I don't know if the sun would warm it up enough. I'd like to try it, though. I'll try anything. We got some sandbars. It's fairly shallow. I'll go set up on them things and try it.
Richard, you've been fishing predominantly, you'd say, your whole life, right?
Oh yeah, yep. Since I was big enough to hold a fishing pole.
So, but from the conversations we've had and stuff, I've realized you've really evolved. What would you say has been the biggest part of your evolution as a fisherman?
Honestly, YouTube has probably been the biggest factor in me being into what I'm into now. What I would say trophy catfishing. You know, used to I just went to fish just to catch something. Didn't really care what it was. Channel cats mostly because that's what was abundant and that's what I knew kind of how to fish for. And you hear stories of all them big giant fish over in the river, but to me that was just kind of unattainable. You know, that was like, well, you got to have special gear and equipment and this and that. But I started watching YouTube videos. One day I was bored and I was like, well, what if there's any catfish videos on YouTube? And I found catfish and carp, and I found Steve Douglas and Muddy River catfishing. I was like, wow, man, this is pretty cool. So that's what got me into the whole YouTube world. But then I seen people like me out catching 60, 70, 80 pound fish. And I'm like, hey, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And so I started, looking into what kind of gear they're using, rods, reels, that kind of stuff, baits and rigs. But yeah, just finding out, I don't want to say how easy it is, but how accessible it is. I thought that was like kind of a far-fetched dream, catching 60, 80 pound fish, but hey, if them old boys could do it, I can do it.
Done it and then some.
Well, then a little bit, yeah. But yeah, just discovering YouTube and all the the wealth of information too that's out there is just incredible. If you want to know anything about fishing or a way to do it, there's somebody made a video about it. Right. So that's helped a lot.
So you answered the first part of that question, which would be how, what triggered the evolution. But what would you say that you're doing so much different now? What are you keying in on? What's the big differences between then and now? Like if you could just go back to yourself 10 years ago and say, hey, Richard, you need to be doing this, what would you tell yourself?
The biggest thing would be knowing that I'm putting my bait in front of fish. Used to, I just went like, hey, this looks like a cool spot. This looks nice. I'll just throw a bait out there and see what happens. That's just what you did. You sat there all day and you might catch fish, you might not. But just learning how catfish behave, learning their biology, what makes them tick, winter patterns, summer patterns, just kind of understanding the fish a little better has made me put my bait in front of fish more. And I think it's really evident here lately. I've been really zoning in on, well, this time of year, they're probably feeding on this and this kind of condition. And that's what I'm looking for when I go out, and it's paying off.
So what I'm hearing and taking from what you're saying is you're really describing the difference between just being a fisherman and being an angler. That you're putting in the homework, the leg work. It's not just I'm going to cast out on this bank wherever's just got a good flat spot for me to lay back in my chair. I'm putting in the leg work, and I'm actually putting some thought into it.
Yeah, that describes it pretty good. I listened to a lot of guys, a lot of you guys, and I don't want to start naming them all because I'll forget somebody. But two of the really big influences I've had have been Tim Scott from Epic Catfish and Jeremy from Creole. And they both told me pretty much the same thing. If you want to get after some big fish, and that's, of course, we all start here, but we want to keep going up. I want to start catching bigger fish. Man, you can't go where it's comfortable. You can't go where it's comfortable for you, because that ain't where them fish is at most of the time. Every now and then they are, and you can catch some, but that's why when me and Danny's out fishing and we're out in that fast current, I'm 4 or 5 mile an hour. Danny calls it that Creole water. Creole likes that moving water, and And I know why. That's where a lot of them big fish is hanging out. And if you watch Epic, that's most of the time where he's at too. He's in that fast, crazy water where it's a little sketchy and it ain't just real comfortable to set up in. But Lord, he's now gonna make Creole turn red. Got him blushing.
Well, I think it's also just like you said, me too, myself also, growing up, I've always fished, but we fished for substance. So we were out there to catch those 2 or 3 pound channel cats, whatever. We take them home, clean them, eat them. And, and then getting into catfishing and wanting to catch big fish, it changes your mentality. And I think once you have
absolutely
that big fish mentality, it changes how you fish altogether.
Yep, that's exactly what Tim calls it. He said you got to get out of the channel cat and flathead mentality and start getting into that big fish mentality. And they are a whole different animal. They behave different at different times even than the smaller fish and the other species. They act different. And, that's kind of what I'm wanting to do is kind of target those. I love just go out and catch fish for the heck of it. Don't get me wrong, but man, when you start catching them bigger ones, you want to catch more. It's addicting, So I'm trying to find them bigger fish and figure out their patterns and I don't know. I'm on to something. I think right now, at least in the cold weather, in this current situation, I'm kind of keyed in on them. But big question will be is can I do the same thing in June and then again in September and November because they're going to move and their pattern's going to change and I want to try to stay with them this year and see if I can pattern them through a whole year and stay on them. That'll tell you a lot about the fish too. And I really want to kind of understand the fish better.
Right.
So, I had a thought. Go ahead, Daddy.
While he's stumbling through his thoughts, so you just said something that brought something to mind. I know what months we struggle the most to catch fish. So on a river system like the Mississippi River that you're fishing, is there a certain month that you struggle to catch fish more in?
Yeah. I don't know. Last year, it was pretty much all the months. It was rough. Dude, last year was the worst year of fishing I've probably ever had. So that may not be a good gauge of it. But, of course, during the spawn is always tough. I think it's tough for everybody everywhere, river, lake, whatever. But I would say like that May and June, and early July, that's usually a little rough. But you start getting in through July and August, you start getting into some big fish. Like Parker, he loves fishing in like July and August, real hot. He starts throwing them great big donkey baits and stuff, and he catches some of his biggest fish in them months. But if I had to say, I'd say probably, May and June's going to be our toughest time.
So I gathered my thoughts, and I was going to ask you. So that day you caught your new PB, the 90-pounder, 88-pounder, whatever anybody wants to call it, the monster fish. That was a slow bite that day. That was the only fish you caught that day?
That was the only fish we caught that day. We hit a couple different spots, and we really worked all them areas, and we looked and marked, and that was the only fish we caught.
So would you take that day, or would you take, or even if it wasn't that big, say a 55-pounder or a 50-pounder, would you take that one fish that day, or would you rather caught just a gob load of small fish? What would be your preference right now?
Hands down, the one big one. Hands down.
And that right there, that tells me something, and that's that what your goal is when you're hitting the water. And if you got that goal of catching that big fish, it may not always resort in a lot of bites, but but it does help you increase that potential of catching that monster fish, that mentality you were just referring to. I think that's a lot.
As far as just catching fish and maybe putting on a show and stuff, I'm kind of hobbling myself a little bit, but I feel like the risk is worth the reward. I think I'll have a lot of slow days and probably some skunk days, but I feel like it's worth it. A 150-pound fish, there ain't nothing like fighting a 50-pound fish in some 3-mile-an-hour current, finally netting that joker and holding him up. I'd take that over 10-pounders. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, you don't go to work and say, hey, look, I caught these or you might, and everybody's different, but
Yeah.
you're less likely to go to work and say, "Hey, I caught these 10 pounders." But you catch that 150, that 160, 170. You go to work and you say, "Look here, boys, yeah,
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, all them boys I work with, they kind of know what I do, and they, they're outdoorsmen and stuff too, and they watch the channel. And about every Monday I come in, how'd you do? Well, where's the monsters? Oh, it was slow bite. Oh, we only caught a few, but if I catch that one, they can tell I come in grinning, start pulling out my phone. Look here.
That's it.
Well, Jim McGowan said just a minute ago that a lot of the big fish are loners, and
because little fish don't want to be eaten.
Right, and that's something that I think I've noticed over time is if we get into some decent sized fish, it seems like those bigger fish, even if you catch multiples, are hanging out with each other. Or if you get into the smaller fish, you catch a lot of smaller fish together. I think sometimes the fish sizes kind of hang out with one another.
Right. We've caught some 20-pound, 30-pound fish hanging out with the 50s we've caught, but we've not really ever caught any 5-pound fish right beside of a 50. And it's because that 5-pound fish is a potential meal, or at least this is what I think is a potential meal for that bigger fish. They don't care if they're both blue cats. The bigger fish, if he's hungry, he'll just eat the little guy. And Creole said, monster hunting is a commitment. It's not for everyone. And that's very true.
That's right. It's something you got to really want to do, because you can frustrate yourself if not. But I'm pretty hard-headed and stubborn. When I kind of want to do something, I'll stick with it. But Cody, what you just said there makes a lot of sense. I'm actually looking at some of my notes here. On January 14th, me and Danny went fishing, and we had a stellar day, right? And I'm looking at all the fish that we caught together. We started off in one hole behind that dike, and I caught a 55. And I think Danny caught maybe like a 19 or something, pretty close. It may not have been the exact same hole, it's pretty close. Well, then we moved down to that other current seam by the tributary, and all the fish we caught was a 32, a 38, a 23, a 13, 14, and a 15. So they was all in the 30s or all in the upper kind of teens. So yeah, that makes sense. They was all kind of hanging out of that one little stretch that we fished. All the fish we was catching was in the 30s, and then we moved back and we caught some in the teens. They was all kind of right there together, the weight class.
And that it may not be true, but it does seem that way to us. And Steve Ransom says, if we have someone that doesn't fish much, I'll try for numbers. If it's just me, I will go all day for that one big fish. And I like that answer. And don't take anything I'm saying. And I know Richard doesn't mean it either. He's not. Neither one of us or Daddy either is looking down on anybody that likes to numbers fish.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
One of my best friends, J Dog, he's a numbers fisherman. I mean, he's caught some absolute monsters, but J Dog will outright tell you he'll go out if he can go out and catch 10 5-pounders or 1 50-pounder. He's taking the 10 5-pounders. He just assumed catch numbers, and that's great. That's what makes him happy, and that's what it's about at the end of the day is what's going to make him happy. Everybody has a different fancy.
Yeah, we're all doing this for fun because we enjoy it. So do it the way you want to do it.
That's right.
Don't take nothing I say for the gospel. I'm figuring this thing out as I'm going, and this is just what I'm enjoying doing right now. Now, me and Stephanie will still go down to a little local lake and just have a ball catching 1.5, 2-pound channel cats all day. You can go down there and catch 20, 30 of them. And that's a lot of fun too. So I ain't knocking that. We fill up live well, come home, and we're eating good for a few days, and it's a lot of fun doing it.
And you know what? I enjoy doing that sometimes, especially like you was talking about going the month of July. A lot of times those channel cats and stuff will move up on the bank, and I can take the grandkids down there and just float some baits around the edge of the bank and let them have a ball catching those channel cats. And they absolutely love it.
For sure.
especially you get them on, little lighter tackle where you're not just dragging
Yeah.
in nothing. So it's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
we'll go down that little lake, and I leave all my big rods at home. It's kind of overkill. I'll take I got a couple Abu Garcia Black Max spinning rods. It's what I use for, I dare say, bass, occasionally a little bass fishing, and but mostly skipjack. I'll call them my skipjack rods. Anyway, I'll take him down there with some small hooks and light tackle, and man, that's a lot of fun.
It is. It is. So you said something just a minute ago. You said that you seen that big fish on your graph. So
Mhm.
now that you're getting into this more and catching bigger fish, how much do you rely on your electronics?
Heavily, pretty heavily. I don't want to say that because I want to be that cool guy. No, I can just tell. I can smell them. I know where they're at. You know what I mean? But I ain't that guy. Them fish move around so much, and I don't know what's down there if it wasn't from electronics. So I rely on them pretty heavy. Before I got in the boat, I was using Navionics. When I was just fishing from the bank, and I used it as much as I could, the areas that were mapped, because I just hate going at something blind, just showing up and going, well, let's see what's down there. So I'd get up my Navionics and I'd scroll around. Well, here's a little thing or a drop, and it'd give me something to target.
Right.
And now that I'm in the boat, I'm just kind of doing that a little more kind of anal about it. You know what I mean?
Well,
but like that fish there, I was looking for basically anything that I think would hold a fish, not necessarily trying to mark fish, but just where they would be. And me and Matt was both looking at the thing like, man, it's like a desert here. It was just flat, just completely flat. And like, well, then all of a sudden we seen there was this one little hump just kind of out of nowhere. And you could see a couple limbs or some brush had got caught on that. And that fish was laying right in behind him with his head up. And he was prone position. But yeah, we had went 75 yards just flat. The one hump, the one piece of structure that was there is where that fish was. And we was having a little trouble because the way that current comes through and it makes a big eddy. There's weird cross currents. Anyway, it's hard to spot lock on them. And anchorfish. Creel said, man, when I get in that kind of situation, get right on top of them, spot lock right on top of them, drop it on their nose. Well, shoot, I'll try that. I dropped that old bait down there. It wasn't 3 minutes. He smoked it.
All right. So Steve Ransom has a question here. Richard is talking about fishing the back of a current break. I'm guessing you were below and fishing back up to it. How big of a weight does it take to hold it in place?
Well, it depends which current break we're talking about. Like the dike where the water's rolling over the dike, I'll get up pretty close to the dike and where it's still kind of fast, and we'll throw back into where it slows down just a little. And I think you can get by with, I think Danny's throwing, 6s and 5s, and they're holding pretty good. When you start getting out, like where I was at that day, I was having to have at least 8 ounces to get it to hold. 10 would have been better, but right in that particular spot, 8. About all I throw is 8s and 10s.
Let me go over and I'll do that for you, Avid. And thank you for the $5 super chat. Much appreciated.
Heck yeah, Avid.
So what you just said was something that we don't even have in the boat, a 10-ounce weight.
Oh, yeah.
We hardly ever fish any current. We have to travel, go to Tennessee River somewhere or something before we fish the current. But most places we've been, I think about 8 ounces is the biggest weight we've needed to hold to the bottom.
Is that right?
10-ounce weight, we'd be in trouble. We'd have to put multiple sinkers on.
Yeah. I've done that before. Get out a little faster current. I've had a 10 and slide a 4 on there or a 5. And talking with Jeremy, when I start getting out into the heavier current, like this year, I really want to suspend drift a lot more. I want to focus a lot of energy learning how to suspend drift. He said, man, he'll throw 24 ounces down there just to keep his line straight down. Because, you got to have it straight down when you're drifting. And he's talking using 20, 30 ounces. So I'm probably going to have to special make my own sinker just to
That's
hold
wild.
it down.
Yeah, I've seen those
It
videos
is.
of Epic making those, and those it's just a Coke can
Yes.
full of lead.
Right.
And here's the thing: I don't have but two heavy action rods, and actually they're at the house right now. Don't even have reels on them because we're most of the time dragging is in
Yeah.
how we fish most of the time. So the two heavy action rods I have, we don't even have reels on right now. But I would imagine using that much weight, you would have to use a heavy action rod.
And
Well, if you was trying to sling it or cast it, yeah, I would say 100%. But with that much weight, I wouldn't be trying to cast it. I'll be just suspending or just dropping it right behind the boat or something, doing some like precision anchoring maybe and get close enough. But yeah, I don't know if I got a rod that would sling 20 ounces.
And Steve says, I have 8 ounces in my lake. You could use it for an anchor if no jet skis are out.
Same thing here, Steve. Same thing.
You know, but something, I had that phone call, but I still heard you talking about it, about the electronics and using it. And, you know, we don't look for fish on the electronics a lot. I mean, if we see fish that we think catfish, we'll stop for sure. But we're also looking for just fish in general, just some form of life in that area, and looking for bait and stuff. But something I have started doing more is running the side scan while dragging. And if, say, I've got a board that's like 45 foot off to the side and one that's like 20 foot, but then I see a fish on side scan that I think's a catfish that's like 30 foot. But like, Daddy, how far over you think I ought to move that for be it 30 foot? And I'll move it into that fish on side scan. And it's actually right about the time the board gets to where I think it marked, we've gotten bit and caught fish like that. So I'm starting to watch the side scan more, even when I'm dragging baits, even though I'm not picking the spot so much based on it. I'm using even while I'm done in the spot, you know.
Got you. Yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing. I've pretty much relied on my just old 2D, for looking for structure, depth, this and that. But I'm starting to use that side scan a lot more, and I know the advantage is there if I knew how to read it real good. And so I've been making myself, every time I go out, use it and learn a little bit, watching more videos, playing with the contrast frequencies and stuff. And I'm starting to get to where, the other morning when I was out crappie fishing up on your guys' channel, I was playing around with my side scan, and I actually found a couple little schools of crappie. And I played around with my stuff, and I got them to come in real good. I could see them real good on my side scan, and I think that'll help a lot. And like you said, especially when dragging. So I'm gonna try to mess with that and get better with that. So that down scan, I don't know about it. I don't care for that down scan.
I like the down scan.
I don't think enough. Do you?
Well, I like it paired with the traditional, because if I see it on traditional, I've seen stumps that look just like fish on the traditional, and then I can look down at the down scan and you can see the tree shape in it, and it just gives me something to balance between the two. Creole says 3/4 inch of EMT conduit is 3 ounces per inch when filled with lead, for your information. I've got a few that are 12 inches long, and I'm no math genius, but I had that at my head just now. That's 48 ounces. That's 4 pounds. Or no, 48 ounces ain't 4 pounds. 16, 30, 2.5 pounds. Yeah.
That's where he's at down there. He'll get in that 5-6 mile an hour current. It takes a lot of lead to hold that down. I've had, no kidding, just even where I'm at, I've had I threw out 10 ounces and had it coming up behind the boat. It just, especially if you got a float or a demon dragon or something like that on it, or a big old skipjack head catches a lot of current, man, it'll pull that 10 ounce right up off the bottom.
Yeah, I believe it, because me and Jeremy Coughlin went to Pickwick, and they had the floodgates all open. I mean, the current it's the fastest current I've ever seen in my life. And we tried to put out some lines in it, and we only had 8 ounce sinkers, but we put 2 on each line. So that's 1 pound, which isn't the ideal way to have 1 pound, because the shape of 2 sinkers is going to catch more water, but it wouldn't drop it to bottom. It was pulling it up and just, that's a pound of weight and this much. I don't know how to fish this much current. It's over my head.
It's a whole different animal for sure.
Yes.
You talking about your heavy action.
Oh,
you talking about your heavy action rods and stuff. It made me remember the rod that I caught that on was on a medium heavy Hellcat. And I was actually sitting there talking to you guys right after I'd bought it. I bought it at CatCon last year. And I went over and, I bought it and was playing with it and everything. And I was talking to y'all, and you was telling me that I should probably get a heavy action if I was going to be pulling boards or, this and that. And I thought, well, I already got it. It'll be okay. Kind of wish I had got a heavy action. It worked. It got the fish in, but buddy, it was doubled over.
Well, I tell you what, we use medium action more than anything now. Dragging boards without current, the medium action works best. But if I was in current all the time, I'd want a heavier action to pull those boards in that current for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it done the job. But I was thinking, I was like, man, I should have listened to Larry.
And Steve Ransom's talking about how, the side scan, how it can be the best tool in your arsenal. And if you just take the time to learn it and how much he's rode around, and it takes some riding around looking at. And something that also will help with learning the side scan is if you don't know where something is in the water, ride by and look at it. So you see, so you don't know what it is, then you got a reference point at what you're looking at on your graph,
Yeah, that's a good idea for sure.
Danny, he's using old truck rims to weights on the Mississippi.
Him saying that reminds me, when I was growing up, as a kid, I had a great uncle that took me fishing a lot. And he was a funny guy. He stayed on the river fishing, and he was too tight to buy him any sinkers or him any lead or anything. So he'd tie a bunch of spark plugs on his lines and have spark plugs.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. I've slung a lot of big nuts and bolts and spark plugs. When I was younger, we didn't have our own. My dad would have whooped me if he seen me melting lead for sinkers. We melted a bunch of lead, but it was for molding bullets. We'd sit around and we reloaded, we mold bullets and stuff. Dad would whoop me if he seen me making catfish sinkers out of his good lead.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'd round up old nuts and bolts, spark plugs, anything I could find.
Jim McGowan said, "Yep, lug nuts."
Yep.
And it just goes to show some ingenuity, and a lot of the techniques that we're using today have come out of ingenuity. They haven't always been the standard. Suspend drifting or spot locking and suspending baits. That's not always been the standard way of fishing, or dragging baits or any of that. This come out of ingenuity, people thinking, hey, I can do something a little different and I can make something work. And, or the demon dragons we use, those I'm sure started out as somebody taking the treble hooks off of a top water bait. All this stuff just comes out of somebody's ingenuity. So just because you don't see somebody else doing it doesn't mean you don't need to figure out a way to try it out yourself. You might have a really good technique on your hands.
I'm that guy. I'll try something. If I think of it and go, boy, I wonder if that'd work, I'll try it, man. But just like the rig I was using, I've been using for a while, and when I caught that fish on, I thought I had invented my own rig, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. I come up with this. I invented it. I took a picture of it, and I sent it in our little River Rats group. It was like, hey, boys, check this out. And I think it was Danny said, yeah, that's kind of like Coach's rig. He uses that little piece of tubing on there. I was like, crap, somebody done did it, but his is a little different. And then come find, I think Muskrat does it too. It's I got one right here actually.
Yeah, show us off.
Yeah, it's just a 3-way swivel, it was a dropper rig. So there's your 3-way and just a light line going down to my sinker. But then my leader line comes off here. I got me a little rattle and a bead, but then I got a piece of vacuum tube. I just happened to have a roll of it laying around and thought, boy, I could do something with that. So I put that vacuum tube on my line to keep it rattle off my hook, just because I didn't want to stack up beads because I'm cheap. Well, I didn't want to put a bunch of beads on there and swivels and stuff. It works. I thought I'd come up with something cool, but apparently Roger and Steve Adams have been doing that for a while. But it works.
Buggy says, my pop was a crane operator. We have a few medicine balls I'd be willing to part with for you.
I've actually got a small one. I got a small medicine ball out there. It's for a trot line weight.
I've actually seen a few rigs here lately that Uncle Lou showed me one that uses some of that tubing in an ingenious fashion. He's been kind to tell me I need to make one up. Uh-oh.
Hey, looky there, Mr.
Boom, boom,
Stan.
bam.
What's up, Stan?
What's up, Stan?
How we doing? How we doing?
We are doing
good, brother.
So how's the Catfish Conference looking now? I know you've been down there all day.
Woo! All day long. It is looking crazy. If you were there last year, be prepared because it's twice as big this year.
That's going to be awesome. Going to be awesome. Can't wait to get there in the morning now.
Yeah, it is a blast. There was already I don't know, with everybody there setting up, and there was a ton of people there already just setting up and doing things like that. So it's gonna be absolutely on fire tomorrow. You can tell Amy that the Catfish cook-off is all set up and ready to go.
Ooh, who's that bald-headed fella behind you?
Got him
talking about me.
Dustin. Oh,
yeah, we didn't mean to come in and change the show in a different direction. Cody, glad to see you're going all right.
No, we're sitting here with one of your favorite topics. We're sitting here river fishing. We're sitting here picking Richard's brain about the river fishing.
Well, he according to Danny Stone, he has set the cluck free, and look what's been happening.
Well,
he unleashed the cluck. That's
Danny told me, and I probably ought not say this out to on the interwebs because it was in a private conversation, but that Richard was the new bus driver.
Not you too. Don't you start it now.
They were going to kick Creole plumb off the River Rats team. He said that Creole was a river mouse, that Richard was the river rat. So that
Cody, you ever seen a Cajun get mad? Don't you get mad at me.
I promise you, Jeremy, I love you. I think the world of you. You're an amazing angler, and these are not my thoughts. I heard Danny Stone say this. Danny Stone told me that.
Larry, mute him. I've met Jeremy in person. He's too big old boy to get on his bad side now.
While we're on the topic of Jeremy, everybody go ahead and get real excited about next week because guess what? We're going to have Jeremy DeFore on the show.
Oh, yeah.
I just now found that out. I'm getting excited.
I'm sorry. I should have told you.
Although,
by the way, what's up, Dustin? How's it going, buddy?
Wait a minute. Richard, isn't your PB bigger than his?
His is bigger than everybody else on page, I think.
I'm just saying. I'm not trying to stir trouble or nothing, but that's what I've heard. I heard your PB was bigger than. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Well, I don't know that to be a fact. I don't know exactly what his is, so I don't know that to be a fact.
Oh,
and, you'll have to get him.
We got some more strangers hanging out here in front of the hotel with us.
What's up?
Hey, what's up?
What's up, guys?
John, Tim, how's it going?
Here we are.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome here. We got things. We got
I'll tell you what, there's more river knowledge that was just on this screen right then than anybody could ever imagine.
We found the elevator, and as I looked out the window, I expected to see snow out here. And there's no snow. We're like, that's a good thing.
And yet we're still out here in shorts.
And Creole says, he who stirs the pot usually ends up licking the spoon.
Uh-oh.
And that would be Cody.
Hey, Richard's PB is bigger than mine, too. I'm just saying.
And Creole says, I actually have the smallest PB of the entire River Rat crew, believe it or not. But here's, and not trying to point out anything, say anybody's less. Here's the thing that just makes me think the world of Creole. It's consistency.
Yep.
Creole will go out and he'll catch 40, 50 pounder one after another. And his consistency, and that's hard. Catching one big fish is extremely hard too. But to go out and consistently get on fish the way he does, I know I was stirring the pot and aggravating some there, but it's just amazing. And I think
absolutely
he knows that.
That's what I was talking about earlier with the consistency, not being able to just find one here and there, be able to go out and consistently target those fish and catch the fish the size you want to. Jeremy's a good example of that. He's really keyed in on his area of the river, where they're at certain times and different conditions, and that's kind of where I'm wanting to get to.
Yeah, and that consistency is extremely hard to come by, because I go ahead, there's not been a live fishing stream that I've seen that when Creole was in the event, everybody didn't consider him the heavy favorite. So that speaks volumes, when it was 1v1, and I know Stan's done really well in the 1v1s, but Creole was a lot of times the heavy favorite in those things. And it's just because it's like he didn't seem to have a bad day very often.
Yep. Yeah, Danny's right. He's pulled our butt out of a fire on a couple occasions.
So, Stan, what are we missing? What questions should we be asking a river fisherman?
Well, let's see. River fishing, the biggest questions you're going to be asking that I think is different from lakes is how do you stay on the fish? Lakes, you may be harder to find them originally, but it seems that you can stay on them a little better. I don't fish a lot of lakes, but that's what I've seen from at least out here in the Virginia area. It seems like the fish kind of in a lake will be on a pattern, but in rivers, it's that fish is constantly moving, constantly traveling, constantly changing.
Yeah, we can get on a pattern for, normally a few weeks at a time sometimes.
Yeah,
So that's a great question, Richard. What do you do? What are you looking for and doing that to constantly changing, because these fish are in such different places from minute to minute?
Well, that's where we go back to. I want to understand the fish's biology and, for lack of a better word, thought process. The river is constantly changing, and he's got to adapt to it. He lives there all the time, so as that river's changing daily, that fish's behavior is going to change, and it might be just hanging out 40, 50 yards further out of the current when you start getting a lot of trash coming down river, things like that. So if I go spot lock them the same spot I caught them last week, but the river's come up 4 foot, they may not be there. I might have to move closer to the bank, get out of the trash. The current seams will move as the river comes up and down, so I've just got to adjust for that. And just really understanding the fish's behavior and biology is key to me. What does he like? Where is he comfortable? That's kind of what I'm looking for. Where's that fish going to be comfortable at? And I want to go to his house. I don't want to wait for him to go to McDonald's and come out to eat. I want to go where he lives.
Richard's on a mission now. You're going to be all over them fish, man.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Sir.
That's awesome to see you out there on that boat, buddy.
It is.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Fish here.
You and Epic had a lot to do with that, man.
Well, now you got even like a deeper disease now. Your disease is progressing one level.
For sure.
Now you're gonna break out a few more thousand.
Yeah, no doubt.
Stan 3's been on the river since, what is today? Thursday. He went out Tuesday night, and I think he's been on the river since then.
Oh yeah, he's got it. We know quite a few.
You got it.
Everybody, y'all coming to CatCon?
Yeah, we're gonna be here tomorrow morning.
Awesome. We got there set up Epic's little display. He's kind of got a neat little thing set up in there for everybody for his seminar. It's going to be pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to get there.
Yeah.
Can you give us a preview of what he's going to be talking about? What is it?
I'm pretty sure he's going to show people how to focus on wing dikes and kind of like the dynamics of the wing dike with the scour holes behind him and trying to fish the reverse current and finding out where the big boys hang out,
Oh, that's going to be an awesome topic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to miss that one. That's going to be awesome.
I can personally guarantee that a lot of Stand 3's big fish have come from that exact situation right there.
Yeah. There's a certain dynamic about those wing dikes that they do hold fish, and if you can get on there and target them, figure out how to target them. Oh yeah, it can be on. Reeling them in over the top of anything and bringing them up over that current. That's another thing. I've caught fish with him that have absolutely exhausted me. And then he's like, "Come on, hold it up!" And my arms are so burnt I can't even lift the fish.
That's awesome stuff. Well,
dude, it's awesome. We got a fire pit out here at this place. I actually like this place at the Crown Plaza.
Nice.
Yeah, man, it's nice out here.
So,
all right, I gotta go handle Epic. You guys take care. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you, Sean.
It's already crazy. It's already crazy over here at CatCon. And it's not even day one yet. This is just pre-CatCon. And it's about to get crazier.
All right, Richard. Are you going to be there when I get to talking at the old CatCon?
Brother, we ain't gonna get to make it this year. I'll be watching it online though.
No,
I ain't gonna
okay,
miss it.
all right. And hopefully it gets filmed good because I am fixing to spill the biggest secret that no one knows about, probably or cares about, in all of giant blue catfishing in rivers. I've spelled it out. I've spelled it out by building a menagerie of not only bait fish but catfish in a reverse current situation. Also dealing with a wing dike in which I'll be on a 12-foot ladder casting down into the crowd and talking about stuff. That's all I got to say. You have to watch it. See ya.
Yeah, we'll be there.
You gave more than we gave.
So Richard,
Tim's a little fired up.
Hey, that's good. I know he's going to be fired up tomorrow during his seminar too.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Stan has really showed everybody on YouTube the importance of being able to get fresh bait and good bait. What are you doing and how are you targeting your bait on the Mississippi?
Well, right now, it's shad, man. All we've been catching them on the shad. I've had carp, buffalo, sucker, you name it. Been catching every fish lately on fresh shad. A couple times I was running late, didn't get a chance to get any. Luckily, Danny had went and caught some that morning and shared the love and gave me some bait. But me and him have been doing about the same thing, just cast netting our favorite little bait holes that we got down there, and just fresh is kind of where it's been.
So is there something you key in on to find that bait? Is there tips you could give to people that maybe have trouble finding shad to cast net?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's hard out in the open water with that much current. It's tough. I've kind of struggled to do it yet. But what we've been doing is getting behind a dam. We've got a spillway dam, and man, them shad just, it's got the retaining walls that come out and kind of go out, and they're hanging out right alongside the walls, right up beside the dam, just out of the current, schooling up, and that's just kind of our go-to spot. They seem to just always be there. But if you've got a spillway or a dam close by you, it's a good place to start trying to get some bait.
That's kind of funny because that's some of the same things that we key in on here. We've got a couple of shipping containers that are in a certain section, and it kind of provides that, the current's right there by it, and the shad are just kind of tucked up in there with it. The same things that you mentioned, finding bait, are the same things that we're doing here. The other thing is using your water temperatures and using your weather conditions to kind of figure out if they're going to be shallow or deep, things like that. That's a key factor too, is how deep the bait is. Because let's face it, the shallower it is, easier it is to cast net. Deeper, it's kind of hard to cast net shad in 35-foot water and current. So
yeah, I've tried. It's tough.
Well, that's been the awesome thing I've watched on YouTube about people with live scope is they throw this cast net at those deep shad, and you threw the net perfect. The shad just outran the net.
Yep.
And so it's really hard. Pushing them up on a shallow bank really helps here in the lakes. I don't know how much of an option that is on on y'all's waters, and rivers. But if you steer, you could kind of catch them up on a shallow bank. They're not hard to cast net. But then we also have a spillway, and that's a lot of people's go-to place here. Is they just go down to the spillway and cast it out over a little eddy. And as long as they don't get it hung up in something that's drifted down and limb or something that's hung in that eddy, they're bringing in a bunch of shad. So
right.
Well, we're at 7:00. I don't want to step on Chad's toes. Fields to Water's about to go live, but at the end of all our shows, we always pay. We make no qualms. We definitely have a strong faith, and we'd love it if y'all take a moment and pray with us.
Absolutely.
All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come before you, and Lord, we just thank you for Richard and Stan and everyone coming on tonight. Lord, we thank you for them just bringing their knowledge and sharing it with everyone. We thank you for each and every one of these great people that have been in the chats tonight. Lord, they are the ones that make all of this worthwhile. Father, we just ask you to place a hedge of safety around each and every one of us. All those people traveling tomorrow to get to CatCon, all those at CatCon, we just ask you to bless this event, Lord, and may everyone just have a great time, Lord. And as always, we just ask you to be the guiding light beneath our feet. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Chat, I'm so sorry that we neglected y'all a bit tonight. I feel like we just kind of scraped the tip of the iceberg with what we could have got into with Stan and Richard both up here. But an hour sometimes goes by fast. But thank y'all all for being here. Sorry if I missed anybody's comments. Thank you, Stan, for coming up here and saving the day.
Sorry I was late. We went to dinner at 6, and at 6:45, I think I was, 6:45 our time over here. I was typing, Larry, I'm trying, man. I'll get there as soon as I can.
Hey, no problem, man. It was awesome having you jump up here. Richard, thank you so much. You're an amazing angler, and you're far from peaking. I think that you're just at the base of your journey, and you're just going to continue to get better. And I love that because of YouTube, I get to watch that journey. So,
and if I could point one thing out, if you watch Cody, you were mentioning that, Richard put determination and he just kept going out there, and you start putting more blocks together, and you see it paying off. So, that's the best way to do it. You have time on the water, and the best way to catch a big fish is to learn and be prepared to catch a big fish. And you see Richard doing that now. So big shout out to you, Richard.
Amen.
Well, thank you, Stan. I appreciate that. And guys, thank you all for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And I feel honored to be able to kind of do this journey with all you guys and learning from y'all and doing it with y'all. And I just thank all of you for all the information I've picked up over the years from you, and just can't wait to see what's next.
Well, hey, next week we're going to have another river rat up here. We're going to have Creole. And I got to get in touch with Jerry Parker. Hopefully Jerry will get up here and we'll have the whole crew. We'll have the whole crew on here. But we'll definitely before the end of the year, I'm gonna talk Richard into coming up again because we gotta pick his brain some more. But I just dropped that link to Chad. Y'all click that link, go over, check out Fields to Water, and we'll see y'all next time. As we always say, it's God, family, and the great outdoors. Two Stan says, deuces.